Grrr. In the cup, Goganako. Tear one of my wrists, Aerodactyl. Mixing white with the green. Sworn in the bezel was sworn in them fly switching, torn and pivot. Purple water pecs, Pokia. Hard to find even in West Podia. She was naughty. The hex pole, oxo, fuck around, get your nose wiped. Salmon rocket full spikes. I got a Vogue with 4 tights. I just tear her go to go on a tuss flies a kite. And I got Don Dozo for Bozo if she get shite. Spin on goes tight. Dick terror lies, read your whole life. Untrust shot, Colosty Kurt. Afros only concur. Big body fire breather. Let the interior dirt. I was a jetty, want me a curve. Keep it 100, keep my word. Collision course, that's gotta hurt. Digital dash me on a fur. Forge out the red room, go bird. Watch that, this shit just occurred. Mellow the slump is that dirt. Hit him with a terror blast, yet alert. I feel the KG a bird. I just did the 1-6 to revert. Chimp out, weave out, glacier on my wrist, but I'm still the coldest cat. Reminiscing 2013 that summer. They went like Butterfly, Pidgey, Retarder. Pokey aiming, but my shooting not gonna. Blunder my dog on the mic, I can't blunder. Huncho, I'm only smoking on the bomber. Pack the rifle like the Richard Piana. Fuck with the Don, you gon' end up Ivana. Keep one in the pocket, can't get calm, mama. It's true, it's true, it's true. Wanna be the very best, I can't be number 2. Thankful for my brothers, make my dreams come true. 100,000 on 100,000, I still choose you. Don't matter if it's 100,000 on 100,000 on 100,000 on 100,000 on 100,000, I still choose you.
Now that is just wonderful. My goodness gracious me, I see 2 notifications on my great YouTube channel here, and of course, it's just great Griffith comments. What can we say? Is there anything this video can't do? It's gotten like 2,000 views since it hit 1 million, so, you know, you get that bump when it hits 1 million too. It's good to know for my, you know, my next video. You know, we're only halfway there. The journey begins again. We're just like Tyrone Magnus. We're going to hit 1 million subscribers and then say 10 million subscribers at the end of the next video. Crazy. It just... The churning wheel of life never stops, chat. Isn't that deep? Oh, there's a Pokemon thumbnail. A deep dive into Pokemon Sun and Moon Scrap Content Part 2. Oh, this is the leaks guy. I haven't actually watched any of his YouTube videos about the leak stuff, so... You gotta go back to the beginning. My goodness, we got 5 viewers. The people, they love Monster. Or do they just love me and they hate Monster and they're gonna leave? Oh, I didn't even open the PowerPoint yet. I don't even know if it's working. I probably should have checked that before I came out here, huh? Monster's first 60 chapters thoughts. Is this gonna be updated or is this gonna be the old version? Or what the fuck's gonna be happening here, you know? Oh, what a beautiful little thumbnail. What a beautiful, what a terrific little, what a great little PowerPoint we've got going on there. There was like 4 slides. I'm gonna leave. Did you see DK? Best game of all time. Now, Twitch did the thing where it made Elite RE and Miller the Killer the same color. So I thought both of these were Elite RE messages, and I was wondering, why is he talking about Donkey Kong? But no, it's the great Miller the Killer talking about Donkey Kong. And no, I didn't watch it because I didn't care, and then I skipped to the part at the end where Kinda Funny reviewed it, and they said, that was pretty good, guys. Except for Tim. Tim was like, you know, I played this game, you know, it seems pretty mid, bro. But everybody else said, oh, what a terrific little video game. Can't wait. I didn't even know when this game is coming out. Isn't it coming out in like a month or something? It's not even a launch title. Let's look it up. Donkey Kong Bonanza. I remember the name. Release date. Why is my neck sore? My goodness, it's out in less than a month. Because they do the little thing when Nintendo tries to have a big game a month, I'm pretty sure. Tim's a hater. Greg's my guy now. True, Greg Miller did say... I don't even know why he was on the show. Because it's a fucking Nintendo thing when he's talking about it. I watched a little bit of that. Greg was talking about, like, how... Was that the one where he was talking about how... Something to do with his son. His son's name is Ben, by the way. I'm smart. That's Ben Miller. Full docs there. He was saying something interesting about how his kid makes him like Nintendo more or something. And I was like, oh, that is kind of funny, but and kind of clever and kind of probably true, but also kind of insulting. So I wanted to repeat it to Miller the Killer and tell him that his games are just for kids. Did you see there's a new Mario Kart? Elite there is a new Mario Kart. We did see that. Did you hear that Vinland Saga is ending? Everybody's deciding to read Vinland Saga now. Mr. R and Miller the Killer both pledging to read Vinland Saga soon. Just skip it. Vinland Saga's mid. Who cares? Oh, I did have a what do you call it? Did I delete? Oh, I realize what now. Oh no, was that in response to a different tweet? Is that in the replies? Because I announced doing this stream and then I deleted it. But then I had to delete it again. So, oh no, it was a response to somebody's tweet. Oh no, this was the tweet. This was a good tweet. So do I get to choose the songs again? Jockey Bacon was cute. Jockey Bacon says he's too busy with work to do any sort of tribute Vinland Saga video. How embarrassing. It was right there the whole time. What are we doing here? And then I just... meme was like, oh, let me think of a song. And then I started scrolling through my playlist. And then I started listening to songs, thinking about Vinland Saga. I'm like, we gotta make a fucking video here. But I don't know if we will. I was very motivated for that, like, 40-minute period. But do I really care about Vinland Saga? Yeah. I did write down a bunch of cute ideas, though. It would be fun. Anyway, I'm having Pokemon Coliseum withdrawals. I've been playing so many video games on my computer because I'm collecting footage for my next 2 upcoming videos. I don't know if I've even announced this. The next video, first of all, Last of Us Season 2 video. Who gives a fuck about that shit? Millions of people, but I don't want to make it. So we're not doing that. Fuck that. What we're doing is we're making Crash Bandicoot videos. That's right. Video game videos. Let's go. So I have replayed all of Crash 1 and recorded it. It took me literally like 2 hours to beat the whole game. Then I recorded a little bit of the first warp room of Crash 2, a little bit of the first warp room for Crash 3, and that should be all the footage I need for my great first Crash video. But don't worry, the second Crash video is already in production. It's going to be about that Donald Duck game and how it's a Crash clone. So I played through nearly all of the Donald Duck game again. And, Elite RE, you can thank me, I'm not adding those replays to my media checklist because those are for footage. And then I had a plan after that. I still got to do that silly Wonder Egg priority video. That'll also be a small one. So these are like a bunch of 5-minute videos. We'll see, you know. You never trust me to make a 5-minute video. And then Chainsaw Man's on the agenda, you know. We got to get to Chainsaw Man, the appeal, you know. Now, the problem, none of these videos are going to get views, and I'm addicted to views at the moment. But we're viewing pretty well, not even uploading videos, you know. I'm famous now. You know, I hit 1 million views. Did we stream since that? I don't think we did. I think we were just teasing it again, but I am rich and I am famous, and I did get 9 likes. You know, it's pretty cool. Oh my god, I made a video. Oh yeah, that's right, I beat Pokemon Coliseum's final boss with 1 health left on my Quagsire. That was my last Pokemon. That was great. And then Heath wants to insult me saying, isn't this game for 6-year-olds? Fucking idiot. Of course not. Now, Pokemon Coliseum is hilarious because there is a about 6-level jump for the final boss, what you think is the final boss. Your Pokemon are like level 44 maybe. Final boss, level 51. This is normal in Pokemon games. The champion's got a bit of a jump here. But then you find out that there's actually a real final boss, and that guy was just an underling for another guy, the mayor at the beginning of the game. What a twist. It's this little fella here. He's like evil, looks like that guy from Sonic. And he jumps another 10 levels. So you're here with your level 45 Quagsire, and you got to try and beat these level 61 Slacking, Slowking, Opening, Skill Swap, getting rid of the greatest battles in video game history. And it took me like 6 hours to beat it, because you also, before this, have to do a gauntlet of 4 battles, and then you have to beat Nascor. You get healed before that one. That's the guy you think is the final boss. But if you lose at any point, you got to go back to the beginning, and so you start grinding the levels up, and it's just fun. And because Pokemon Coliseum, you got the shit Pokemon, so you know, oh, it's just so much fun, chat. No other Pokemon game is like it. Maybe it's the best Pokemon game. Maybe we got to get shitting on Coliseum every once in a while. But anyway, I thought I deleted this one. I finished Pokemon Coliseum, added it to the checklist. Oh my god, this is my team, chat. Pretty very excited to look at my team here. We've got this is my TV, chat. Are you excited to see my TV? Mantine, a staple. But you got to have him if you want to win Pokemon Coliseum good. Granbull was okay. He hits pretty hard, very frail. Medicham comes in clutch sometimes because he can beat up some fucking rock types, but he's also weak as shit and frail and pisses you off. The great Plusle was doing... Plusle's a terrible Pokemon, but he's kind of cute, so I brought him along even though it's a girl here. And then in these last battles, it was just dragging. It wasn't doing a goddamn thing. It was just, especially those last two, where they were all some of the best Pokemon. It's getting outsped. Its only good stat is like its 95 speed stat. And let me tell you, Salamence does not give a fuck about your 95 speed stat. But I did eventually get Salamence with the Great Plusle. So Plusle was like dead weight, so I'm really with Pokemon here. Shitty Typhlosion over here was underleveled the whole game. Look at him, level 48 here. 49, actually. And he would get knocked out whenever there was an earthquake. Quagsire, honestly, wasn't as good as you remember him being. There's fucking Giga Drains everywhere in this fucking game, just to fuck with your Quagsire. Anyway, that was all great, and then we streamed, so those are our tweets. Let me get rid of this. I see Mr. Gems in chat. I was trying to flex my analytics here. Can everybody pay attention and understand my flexing going on now? Look at this. I guess it's going down. Oh, that's the lowest it's been for a while. Nope. We went a little bit up again, you know. We're doing all right over here. Oh, don't worry about my $200. Except I have to pay 30 of that to the Filipino government for no reason because I don't know how to use YouTube's fucking... I don't know what taxes are. Leave me alone. Anyway, we got a PowerPoint to do. I mean, I still have to read like 170 One Piece chapters first. Don't worry, Shitland isn't happening anytime soon. That's the spirit. You know, Miller the Killer sends me DMs and images of One Piece that, you know, I vaguely remember from when I was in on the One Piece spoilers like 3 years ago. You know, it does affect your brain over here. When you're reading Monster over here, you're reading a million miles an hour, and you're like, well, I'm 60 chapters into Monster. There's less than 60 chapters left in Skypiea. I can be done with Skypiea and move on to the good stuff. You know, I could just be reading One Piece right now. I could just be getting through it. But, you know, you see One Piece, it doesn't have the forward momentum that Monster does, you know. Currently getting drenched at a Terreno, gonna kill myself. What the fuck does that mean? He's in the rain somewhere, trying not to kill himself. Is this famous streamer Mr. Entertainment? Some people say. Pokemon Coliseum is cringe because it reminds me of my ex feels bad, man. That's very sad. My goodness. This is why you can't get a media-related ex, right? None of these share an experience things. Don't be playing video games. Girls don't like video games. Find one of those girls. Now, not the VODs channel. I still haven't uploaded any of my VODs. I'm on max capacity. I'm... Oh my goodness, look at my recommendeds here. Addressing the allegations. People still complaining about that other video. I'm trying to click on my... Anyway, I don't think we're fucking watching it today. Let's see, what does YouTube have for us? Guess the WWE wrestler by 2010's theme song. No thank you. Football. We like football here. Having zero social skills with wife Brandy for 2 minutes and 50... That's my type of video right there. These are all the videos that were here before. B-Mask said he was making a video. I saw there was a new Summoning Salt video. I was rewatching some Crash videos. Who cares about any of that? Traino. This is why you can hardly beat children games. Traino. Is that something they say in the weird part of Australia he's from, which I'm pretty sure is Western Australia? Embarrassing. Anyway. Should we do our PowerPoint? Should it all... Oh my goodness, hold on. Let's find out how Vinland Saga is ending with the great Chibi reviews. There's no way this idiot's reading Vinland Saga, but he's seen season 1 of the anime. He's about to get to season 2 any day now. Let's see if he has anything great to say.
Legendary manga that's touched the hearts of hundreds of thousands of people is finally coming to an end next month on July 25th, 2025. To put this in perspective, this manga has been ongoing since April 13th, 2005. 20 years.
That ain't shit. Berserk's been going since 1987. 89. And One Piece has been going way before 2005. I was born then. That's not old.
Yukimura Makoto, the author of Vinland Saga, has dedicated 2 decades
My favorite Yukimura Makoto
of his lifespan to writing the legendary manga Vinland Saga. And what makes it even crazier is that he has not decided to write anything else but Vinland Saga since he began those 2 decades ago. That's an insane feat. That is not something a lot of creators can do. Typically, when a series lasts that long, a lot of creators and writers get burnt out. They want to venture off and do different works. They want to venture off and potentially do something else, something completely different from what they're currently dedicating their life to. But the fact that Yukimura Makoto has not done
Does anyone do that? I've never heard of anybody do that. When this Hunter x Hunter idiot's not writing Hunter x Hunter, he's just lying down in pain, I'm pretty sure.
And he has sat down and started his series and is now finishing his series. Mad respect to the author. Not many authors can.
Or is this somehow, has this perforated even to Chibi reviews, where that just now was a George R. R. Martin diss? Because they're everywhere on the internet. We're all in on the Preston Jacobs jokes of ago. Could that be possible? I think he's talking about Vagabond. That was my next example. Does that guy make other things? I have no idea. Pretending Berserk is still going, the fuck. True. There is like, oh, so Berserk had a new chapter, which I'm pretty sure is why my video got a bump in views recently. I went to look at the chapter, and I realized I haven't read like the last 2. And then I was like, I don't want to read 3 chapters, so I haven't read any of them yet. Because I definitely should have done a video about them. They were relevant, but I haven't. Now, what was that Discord notification? You think that was Aliari sending me something? No, I don't think so. It could be from anything. Is he just talking about Vagabond? That's all. I already read that one. I was saying something else. That's why we haven't done a Berserk review yet. Aliari, got to talk about Berserk. Why the fuck is Discord going off? How about you kill your... How do you mute this fucking thing? I'm leaking. What is it, in this fucking thing? Look at these fucking idiots. Now, let me go... I'm going to leak something for real. So we're just going to ignore it and hope it goes away. Back to Chibi.
Do that, and that alone is a massive feat that not many authors can say that they're able to accomplish. But it goes much further than that. Vinland Saga is a manga that is held as one of the greats. Anytime people are...
Did you know? Oh my god, is he actually going to say the Berserk thing? That'll be great. I thought he was going to say, did you know? It used to be in a shonen magazine, and not many series go from shonen to seinen. He hasn't read Vinland Saga. I've seen no evidence. You know you done these... Well, let me try and read that again. Also, I skipped the middle of the killer thing. Yeah, I'd rather just binge Berserk later. I wish that was the plan. I'm going to make money off my great secondary ENT review that'll get about 150 views. It'll be epic. Hold on. You know none of these chibi reviews like people read Vinland Saga because you never see them talking about how Thorfinn's group should just kill all the native populations? That's a good point. Did you see chibi reviews watch more anime than you, Heath? Oh my goodness, I did see Heath did some sort of grid thing where you had to mark off all the anime you've seen. Chibi Reviews must have done it. It is funny because Chibi Reviews assumingly watches a lot of anime. So why does he never say anything about anything? You'd think he'd have an opinion or something. Oh my god, Mr. Gems is replying to a thingy. I didn't even know you could do that in Twitch chat. As someone outside of the Vinland Saga fandom, this sentence sounds utterly deranged to me, Lamau. True, in Vinland Saga, we kill the Native American population. It's true. I've seen it.
Recommended manga, Vinland Saga typically pops up in conversation. Like, if people have been reading a lot of shonen, for instance, and they're like, I want to read a dark series, something that isn't shonen, typically you have 3 series that are recommended. You have Vagabond, Berserk, Vinland Saga. Those are the
True. True. Remember when I made a video saying that?
3 that are usually recommended. There's a few others associated, but those are the big 3 that are usually recommended outside.
True, the seinen big 3. True.
Sure. And to see one of those big titles actually reaching a conclusion is something I can't believe I'm seeing. It's really shocking, even though this news isn't necessarily that surprising. And for those that are out of the know, basically, Yukimura, the author of Vinland Saga, has made it very public and very clear for a very long time. Since,
True.
Before, and even prior to
See,
that
Cheer Reviews
yes, the final...
just is on Twitter, so you must have seen this a few days ago when we had the little meltdown, but now we've had the big meltdown because Vinland Saga is actually ending. It is interesting, because Bacon is, like, sad that Vinland Saga is ending. I'm trying to remember if I was sad that Attack on Titan was ending. I really just don't remember. I feel like maybe I was excited for a resolution? I'm not really for Vinland Saga, I don't know. I really don't mind.
Final episode or final chapter of Vinland Saga.
I guess the bigger part is like the cultural element of like, oh, it's like a big moment, so we should all like do something or recognize it in some way. That's like weight to that, an emotional weight to that, to it actually ending. I don't know. To missing Vinland Saga, like, I don't know, maybe it is just because we have to make chapter reviews, but whenever a chapter comes out for most things, I'm like, ugh, gotta make a video now. That's lame. Which certainly wasn't the case for Attack on Titan, but obviously my investment levels in these two things are very different. But I mean, besides Attack on Titan, this is the biggest one, right? If Chainsaw Man Part 2 ends, I would probably just be happy because I don't have to do weekly reviews anymore. But outside of that, I would probably be assuming that there was going to be a Part 3, so it wouldn't even be sad in that aspect. And even if it was, I think my annoyance at not having, or my happiness at not having to be annoyed every Wednesday would probably outweigh the emotionality of Chainsaw Man ending. Plus, I would assume Fujimoto would just do other stuff, right? Isayama probably, I don't know. Is Is it probable to say he probably won't be doing it? Now Bacon just sent a message in the villain thing, and I got a notification for it saying it'll end on 2:20. I don't know if there's new information or something.
Is soon to be approaching. It's coming to an end very soon. He made this post back in 2024, and I made a video actually even talking about this back in November. You can even see my video in the Vinland Saga ending if you Google search it. You'll literally see my video on the topic. But basically, we've known for a while, almost like a year at this point, that Vinland Saga was wrapping up. We just didn't know exactly how many chapters. We knew it was wrapping up soon. And so this news will not come as a surprise, so to speak, to...
Do you think he's going to say a single character's name in this whole video?
...Levin staying informed of Vinland Saga, but it's still sad to see. It's bittersweet.
Or is he going to reference the images in here and be like, man, look at how much Thorfinn grew up?
Sad. But then, as I sat down and I thought about it, I felt a little bit of joy. Let's explain that emotion. The reason why I feel joy that Vinland Saga is coming to an end is because too often do we see a series that lasts as long as Vinland Saga not get a proper conclusion. And let me elaborate. Typically, if a series goes on for 5 years, a decade...
True, at least it's getting an ending.
You have these different authors that write these series on a weekly basis, monthly basis, whatever, and they destroy their body. They destroy their arms, they destroy their back, they destroy their health, they don't sleep right.
True.
The series starts to degrade in quality. You have the author's health degrading to such a rapid...
Now, Vinland Saga definitely degraded in quality. You remember that farming nonsense? Remember this second spout of farming nonsense? My goodness.
That they're forced to do cuts, like, cut out some things or rush through certain plot points just to get to an end where they can finally be at rest and be done with the manga where their health can get back in the proper order. I'm not saying like this happened with My Hero Academia. Obviously, Horikoshi had health issues, but what I'm trying to say is that we have seen these stories time and time again where authors have destroyed their bodies just...
I wonder if this will all flip if everybody hates the ending, or if the popular Twitter crowd hates the ending or something. And then he's going to come back and say, man, it really did diminish in quality.
Our favorite stuff. And to see that, Yukimura Makoto is able to finish Vinland Saga, and everything from my impressions of it and the community said of it, it's a relatively good conclusion. The latest arc has been amazing, the story's been amazing. I've seen pretty much next to no complaints. I haven't. And I think that in general that's a massive feat. To be able to write a series for 20...
It is interesting, because I feel like in one of our discussions, Bacon or Mia said that this last one is their favorite arc, which is crazy to me, because I feel like it's definitely fourth, easily. In terms of interesting things happening, or even interesting characters, there's only 4 Vinland Saga arcs, by the way, so... For the non-villain people, I'm being insulting right now. Because I remember just looking at it as a big epilogue, but it really isn't. Because that was sort of assuming that well, I guess that's vague spoilers. So I guess I won't say that for the virgin ears in chat. It is wacky to me that people like this. I feel like this would be chief of boring, nothing's happening, etc., etc. Just like the Great Chainsaw Man Part 2 population, the smart ones over there.
20 years and not focus on any other projects and finish your story is an achievement in of itself. But here's another thing. Yukimura Makoto...
Why does he just repeat himself in these videos, right? Isn't a 5-minute... I don't know if what our supposed algorithm meta is at the moment. You don't have to... the 10-minute thing was 10 years ago, right? Why is he doing this?
With Vinland Saga. And let me explain. Vinland Saga is popular, obviously. But it definitely surged in popularity in the last few years. Anyone that is aware of the anime adaptation, obviously if you're a Vinland Saga fan, you're aware of the anime adaptation. But the anime adaptation definitely...
It was all that Gigic video.
A lot of new fans and popularity to the series. Now, I'm not saying Vinland Saga wasn't popular. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the anime definitely boosted the popularity of Vinland Saga by a lot. And I think that a lot of people that watched the great anime adaptation of Vinland Saga dived into the manga. And despite the popularity...
The what? Anime adaptation of Vinland Saga? The disappointing, I think he means.
Also very surprising. Typically, authors, creators write...
The current arc is definitely the best so far. See, Elite RE has never had a good opinion, so why would you trust him? Lol, Vinland, and there's only those 3 that'll end. Lol, Vinland's the only of those 3 that'll end. Well, Berserk is definitely going to end, right? There's just always going to be, quotation marks around it. Unless they all die too, who knows? I have never willingly watched a Chiba Reviews video, but he really seems like the most milquetoast person ever invented. He's certainly not milquetoast, right? He just has this very, boring, 2016... culture warrior talking points, but they're not nearly as edgy anymore, and they're all it's just the Asmongold sort of wave of boring retards. I don't know. It's not milquetoast. It's milquetoast for nerdy online communities that aren't political. So yes, he's preaching to the choir mostly here, but yeah. Didn't he literally skip an arc to end it? Well, no, they had to go sell something over here, but we didn't see them actually go and sell it. We just did a flash forward. Nobody cares about that arc. That arc's would be shitty anyway. But apparently at some point he wanted to do it, but then he travels to all the places he wants to write about, and he couldn't travel because of the pandemic, so he didn't do it or something. I don't know. It has that one moment in the series with Hild, though. It does have that. I guess I was thinking that. I was like, what is a great moment from this current arc? I can't even remember one. That would be one. Then it is a pretty big one. But, like, because the Sigig one doesn't count. That counts as, like, the cap end of the last arc. The one, like, the him leaving the father's thing. Like, that was really good. I don't know. I'm sure there was probably... Oh, there was the nuke. That was pretty epic. But I don't know. We avoid all Vinland comments until we reread it again, you know? Even though I did reread it relatively, like... I wanted to say relatively recently, but I feel like I don't remember putting it on a media checklist, which means it was like 2021, which in my head is relatively recently, but is actually nearly 5 years ago. So, can't believe Kyle now cares about spoilers. This is character development. Well, people have expressly given interest in watching something. And Elite RE is going to fucking not even watch my PowerPoint because he doesn't want monster spoilers. What a pathetic loser.
Writers, whatever, when they see their work getting popular, they might extend it, stretch it out a bit, to make as much money as possible from it, since it's 20 to 50, maybe 100 plus chapters, and then the series stays over its welcome. It feels like it's outweighed its welcome.
This is just a topic about, like, the positives and negatives of a possible manga ending.
And you just don't want it anymore, you just want it to wrap the rock. They're going to probably never be satisfied. And I think that there's definitely going to be those...
True, sometimes endings are controversial. Where's the transcript? How do I get that again? I want a transcript Thorfinn. Clip, save, or a report. Show transcript. It's always down here. I always forget. Thor. Or Thor. I don't think he said Thorfinn in the transcript. Well, we got a fucking goddamn PowerPoint to do, you fucking idiots. So... this is the monster section of the stream. Everybody should stick around. I don't think you would get that spoiled from these 68 chapters. And it'll be fun. But Elidari's going to leave anyway. He's a little pussy. There will be kind of spoilers. But, you'll forget them before you read them. If I was doing a whole series thing here, because I'm pretty sure the ending's going to be like a twisty twist... but not yet. You can just stick around and listen to what I have to say about this acclaimed series monster. Hold on, I want to look something up before we start. I want to look up the Mal manga charts. My anime list. That's my favorite website. What did chat say? Chibi reviews is unironically going to be replaced by AI in like 2 years. Absolutely 100%. But so is all of the content, so that doesn't matter. We're not so different, you and I. Oh, number 5. That's pretty good. Shitty One Piece is above it, though. Shitty Vinland Saga is below it, though. And look, I'm bringing the rating down. Completed. I already read the last 2 chapters, guys. No biggie. The great fucking Berserk at the top, Where's, what else do you like? Where's Chainsaw Man? Why is our favorite manga still Berserk, and why is there no competition? Besides this dumb pirate one that I don't even like, that I have to make fun of. And I'm not reading this one, chat. It sucks. Nobody likes JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's gay. Vagabond, though, you look at it, you hear it's not empty, and then you see 39 volumes. What are we doing here? This volume count is question mark, so I don't want to hear hypocrisy about how One Piece is readable, but Vagabond isn't. We'll read Vagabond one day. There's got to be some good mangas out there, Kingdom, that's got even more than One Piece, I think. Anyway, all right, it's 5th. I just wanted that for reference. I'm probably not going to bring it up too specifically. Miller the Killer's linking. Hey, stop spoiling. Miller the Killer's going to. He's linking links. What is this about? Is he still going? No, this is from 4 years ago.
Oh,
Remember when I nearly spoiled Miller the Killer on this because I used to have changing backgrounds, and one of the backgrounds for like my desktop or something, and one of the backgrounds was all of the Yonkos with their bounties. That was pretty funny. I remember that. Who cares about the numbers? I don't have any context for the numbers. I don't remember what Luffy's was last time. And they're all in the old Rocks Pirates. It's pretty cool. They were all pals back in the day. Oh, and all the Shichibukai got put out on the thingy. Oh, and it's also like mini power scaling, and Whitebeard's was really big, so.
Wait, dude.
Oh, and then you get to see Rogers. Okay, it's kind of cool.
It's the king of the.
How much more is it? So if I definitely knew this at some point. So if Whitebeard was 5 million, I don't think they're gonna go 10, and I think it's like billion. They're not gonna go 10 billion, so I bet it's like 6.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only a tiny little bit more.
5.5.
Such a weird numbers. Monkey D. Luffy is gonna have the biggest bounty. I haven't figured this out yet, but it's probably gonna happen, chat. He's gonna be king of the pirates. Fan letter spoiled me on Whitebeard, lol. He threw a chair. I did see him throw a chair. The bounties are kind of restrained. True. Fucking stupid Oda nerfed him. Yeah, I'll add that to my belief system. You can't say that in Pride Month. It's true. Is it Pride Month? Is June Pride Month? I think it might be, now that I think about it. But you're right, fuck JoJo's. Oh, at least Mr. Gems agrees. I don't know much about Uzumaki Khan, but one time I heard someone say he's too stupid to fake his reactions, and that makes sense to me. Like Rogers being only 5 times Jack's. Lol, that is funny. Jack, you know, he's an elephant man. No, he got beat up by an elephant man. Was he also an elephant man? No, because aren't they all dinosaurs? Yes, the great Jack. He's the third guy because you got King, Queen, and Jack. Because I was like, what card is Jack? And then I realized Jack is a fucking card. And then you got the numbers going down. I don't know how far Miller the Killer is in. I don't know. So we should stop talking about Wano. Anyway. He's a mammoth. That's a fucking elephant if ever I've seen one. But then that elephant hit him with his trunk. And Raizo was indeed on the island. Everybody's freaking out. Okay, I'm doing a YouTube intro. Shut the fuck up. We wasted too much goddamn time. I want to talk about Monster. My fucking neck is sore. And Don Flamingo is Joker. Genius. I guess that's kind of true, huh? Oh, no, that's very explicitly true because they were, like, allied or whatever. Nate told me that. That's why Luffy was fucking with him. Well, everybody is very excited for this day. It is indeed Monster's first 68 chapters reviewed. We'll talk about why we stopped there in a second. Now, it is the end of Volume 4 of the big volumes that are on certain websites you can find. I think they all contain 2 volumes. They're doing a Vinland Saga thing with Monster here, with the releases. So I'm technically finished Volume 4 of that, which I think would be Volume 8 overall. We'll talk about the specifics of what events just happened. Maybe we should talk about that first. I'm in the middle of, like, the first big arc. I wanted to finish it, and I've been wanting to make this PowerPoint for, like, 2 days. And I was like, Monster arcs are, like, 3 chapters, 4 chapters. So I, like, got to the beginning of it. And then I got like 4 chapters in, and I'm like, I'll just finish it. And then I read like 2 more chapters, and Tenma still hadn't shown up yet in this fucking arc. So then I was like, well, now that he's shown up, maybe it'll have 2 more chapters. Then I was like, well, now I have to sleep. And then I did it again, and then I finally, about 2 hours ago, looked up Monster arcs, and then looked at it very briefly, and I realized that 77 is when this arc ends. And it didn't really seem like it's ending. It seems like the 3rd act of the arc is about to start with the big library thingy. Tenma's hiding on the roof with a sniper rifle, and we have a mysterious book that made Johan cry and pass out. He did cry too, though. So that's vaguely where we are. So this is probably not the best place to do it, but I also wanted to do it. At first, I wanted to do it after about 50, but then I couldn't stop reading. And then 50 is about a third. So this is a little over a third because we're doing about 160 chapters overall. Right? Which would make it... No, 180, right? Which would make us... I don't know, we're about a third. Kill yourself. And And I have some thoughts on Monster. I have an impression of Monster. I think it's not... If this was after 20 chapters, you'd be like, shut the fuck up, loser. You ain't even started. But we're a hefty amount through, so I think our opinions, our potential critiques, how pretentious, and our potential praisatories might have some weight. So yeah, I'm in the arc with the son of the rich guy, and Johan is over there being the assistant, and there's the girl that likes the son, and Nina was around for a little bit, and we've also got the detective Richard, but he's dead now, shameful, and his two friends, and Tenma's mutual friend, the criminal psychologist, and then the other guy too, who headbutted that one guy one time. That was pretty epic. But we're not just talking about that arc, and I don't want this video to be too much about predictions of what is going to happen, though that is a slide on the very end slide. It is a dot point on the very end slide. So we'll talk about all things Monster. So to begin here, I have read Monster extremely quickly. I feel like I started like a week ago. To be 60 chapters in is pretty big. I usually consume things very slowly. There have been days where basically all I've done when I got home from work was read Monster and vaguely do other things. It has ruined my my frequency of uploading videos at the moment. So it is ruining my life. But yes, I have read it extremely quickly. And suspense is a very good motivator to read, obviously. When do I drop the hammer? I don't think Monster is that great. Monster is like considered like the 5th best manga of all time on like Mal, and people always talk about Monster and how deep Monster is, and Johan, what a villain the great Johan is. He's always in thumbnails with Griffith and stuff. My reading most recently, I guess we should go on the history of stuff. So generally, I don't think it's like, right now I would give it like an 8, which I know is probably like controversial, but we'll get into it. Which I probably should get into it right away to avoid negative comments and people clicking off the video. But instead I'm going to divert into personal history with Monster. So I was spurred on to read this because I watched a YouTube video recently, which is an ambiguous YouTube video with just a weird shadow in the thumbnail, and it said like the most terrifying villains in anything ever or whatever. And they started the video off talking about a bunch of different villains. They also got me to read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, which is a short story where they talked about AM, or however you would pronounce that. From that story at the beginning of the video, they also talked about Frieza. I can't remember the channel's name, I already forgot it. The video wasn't even necessarily that good, but they did have a good cliffhanger where they didn't tell you what happened at the end of the short story I just mentioned, so I had to go and read that. And also, the video was all a build up to say that Johan, it's probably Johan, right? But I always mix up names when I'm recording, right? Leave me alone. I can say them both ways. It's definitely Johan, but I'm not going to say that. The video is all a build up to the great Johan being the most scariest villain. And then I was like, I paused the video. I didn't watch very much more. And I was like, this guy's supposed to be scary? Because obviously you see him on a bunch of like best antagonist lists and stuff like that. And he's got like a cool character design. And that's really all you need to get onto those stupid character lists. And again, that's usually the thumbnails he's in with Griffith or whatever. I had no idea he was supposed to be terrifying, which got me like curious. And so I was like, oh, I gotta find out why he's like terrifying. So I wanted to read it, and then I started it, and it got me really quick. I have attempted to get into Monster twice before. Once was when I was watching the anime, and I got, I think, to the point exactly where Nina and Tenma are like camping. They're camping for literally like 10 pages in the manga. I remember this being like a whole episode in the anime and getting bored. I say this all the time, but it's a little story where I was also watching Game of Thrones at the same time, and I just decided that Game of Thrones was way cooler. Instead of alternating episodes, I was just like, well, fuck Monster, I'm watching Game of Thrones, it's way better. I was also like, maybe 14 at the time, so maybe it was good that we waited. Because I think Monster probably has a lot of adult sensibilities or like relatability that is probably kind of important in understanding, or not understanding, but recognizing the series, relating to the series. I was looking for an R word there. Was it just understanding? I don't know. I feel like I already said that though. And then a few years ago, a bunch of people I know were reading Monster and talking about Monster, and I was lustful to go after and to read these supposedly great series. And I read the first chapter or so. And I remember the scans weren't very good, and that annoyed me, and it didn't really hook me again. So it was 2 fails for Monster. I was like, Monster, it's about this idiot who's wandering around looking for this bad guy. Boring. This time, I don't know what the difference was. This has happened before. I remember I did this with One Piece, where I think it was 2 previous attempts, and then in the third one, I was like, this is the greatest thing of all time. I feel like it's happened with other things too. So maybe some failed attempts and some spoilers and some implications are what you need to convince me to read/watch things. Suspense is a motivator was what I was trying to get back to, and why I read it quickly. Monster is kind of a mystery. It's not a hard mystery in the way Attack on Titan is a mystery, or it's you're constantly guessing and it is a lot of mystery boxes. Monster is a mystery because Johan is a mystery. And you kind of want to... The whole story is sort of the goal is what is this guy's deal? At least to me. And I think definitely that's the propelling thing of the narrative. Tenma saved him, and now he's a serial killer, and now Tenma wants to stop him, so he's on a journey to track him down, and he gets caught in all of his webs and sort of all the people he's affected and all these little individual stories, some of which don't have anything to do with Johan, as he's traveling around. There's a bunch of other thematic stuff, but that's kind of the gist of the series. And I think that motivating factor of what's going to happen next? The plot... So I don't know if it necessarily has twists and turns, because now reflecting on it, I'm what are the twists and turns? I don't know. I don't know exactly why it's so easy to read, I guess. The chapters aren't too long. They're normal monthly-sized chapters, I would say. I assume this was a monthly series. Doesn't look like a weekly series. The art style is very unique and good. I do like it. I haven't read any other Urarasa, the main guy, the author guy, of his stuff. I haven't read Pluto. I haven't read 20th Century Boys. I think I looked at the first chapter of that one time too. And I've also had that not spoiled, but the synopsis read to me, and I was like, it doesn't seem too interesting. I am more interested in Pluto, but I would probably have to watch some of original Astro Boy or read some of original Astro Boy before I did that. And that doesn't interest me too much. So we're at a standstill here, and here we are with Monster. So yeah, it's kind of a mystery. Slow payoffs, long story before and in this present arc. So I do think this is one of Monster's benefits. I guess it could be for a person who gets into Monster and doesn't immediately get sucked in and reads it really quickly. I could see, especially me, and when I was watching the anime originally. It could definitely feel very slow, even though it hasn't to me because I've read so much of it so quickly. It is very much a plotting story where it's not in a rush. And there will be just side things, and there are so many little side stories you go on. I've written down here in the 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th note here that the story structure kind of reminds me most of Heavenly Delusion, but there's more of a straightforward overarching plot to Monster. Heavenly Delusion obviously has the dual timelines and all the flashbacks and stuff, but that story structure is very much we have an overarching goal, but we are kind of checking in on these little stories that go for a chapter or 2 or 3, and then we're moving on and we meet these characters, and these characters now exist in the world, and they might come back, and then some do come back and some don't, and it sort of feels like this more of a journey structure. Generally, this makes it feel a little episodic, which is something I really don't like, usually. But I do like both of these manga, and I would say I think I give Heavenly Delusion about an 8. Is Heavenly Delusion or Monster better? That's actually an interesting, compelling question. I think they're on a very similar tier in my brain. But yeah, that story structure is interesting. This has shifted a lot in this most recent arc. Before this, the biggest arc was probably, what was that character's name from the neo-Nazi group? Let me see. The Game or something? The Player? What was that fucking guy's name? The little weasel Nazi guy. That was a 5 or 6 chapter arc, I think. And that kind of felt like an event. But this most recent arc, that is 20 or 30 chapters. I wonder if this is how we will go with the story. I definitely think after this we'll get 2 or 3 probably shorter little interactions. And even in this bigger part, like I just read the chapter where Tenma meets the like Vietnamese immigrant doctor. That felt like very much a like self-contained story in this arc. So that's all interesting. And even in the arc, you could split it up to like introductions with Carl. I remember Carl's name. And then we shift to the detective, and then we sort of shift back into Tenma. So there's almost like a 3 bits here. And there's still like 10 chapters left in the arc. The slow payoff also works because this is very much like the first third of the story, and sort of the first act is like where Johan is introduced at the beginning. Then there's a long period of the story where it is chasing him and sort of getting slight implications about what he could be like as a character. And then sort of like the big reveal where he is very much a main character in this arc. He literally had a chapter where he was the main character, even though the twist was still something we weren't in on and we aren't really inside of his head. There's... The question of payoffs is also interesting with Monster because... first of all, that structure was really great. You were super invested in seeing Johan, and when he shows up and he is a character, even though he's like obviously being fake externally, maybe, and you aren't seeing any of the interesting parts of him, it is still like, it's crazy that he's even here and like speaking in a scene. This is, we haven't seen this very often. So that was like a great motivator of like pulling away from you, and you never get a lot of information, and then you sort of seem like you're getting some information, and then it's like a bunch of characters talking about him being there, and like, oh, he was just here, and maybe he's right here off camera, but you don't see him and stuff like that. It's a great build up to his reintroduction, and then it's sort of a great payoff. I think the payoffs, Monster feels like a very traditional narrative. And I think I have the G word on one of these slides. Where is it? It's on one of them. Where generic is the G word, by the way. It's my favorite word. There is a very... It feels like a lot of the time you know exactly where it's going. Not necessarily in the mystery, but definitely in the characters. You're like, oh, this character and this character is going to have this resolution, because their like flaw is so obvious. Whereas I feel like in stuff I like more than Monster, it is usually a mystery or a twist within the character itself. Like, Monster does do twist characters, but it's like so obvious that this guy's going to be a bad guy, like Roberto, or there's definitely other examples. There's so many characters too, and especially when they're like so little, it's like the old curmudgeonly doctor in the sticks is obviously going to be like a secret guy that has the biggest heart of them all and stuff like this. And this guy that has this kid here, he's definitely going to end up being abusive, and it's like, oh, you can sort of see where this is going a lot, which I don't really like. Obviously, predictability isn't always bad. I'm sure it works sometimes, but a lot of the time I'm like, ugh, it's not as engaging for me, or at least the impact of it is not too much. There have been individual moments, and I think it is in a different slide too, where Monster has stuck out to me as like a very, like, this is a very interesting piece of characterization. We'll get to that in a little bit though. Because with stories, I usually give like 7s or 8s. It is like, usually like I'm not really mad at it. It's not like bad, but nothing like stands out to me of being like, oh, this is like really interesting in the context of all stories I've seen or something, which I think is what I am generally looking for when I get into something. Like, what else did I start? Oh, Chrono Trigger is like the biggest example where people talk up Chrono Trigger like it's the greatest game of all time. So I go in wanting, like, I wouldn't have started it if I didn't think it was going to be the greatest game of all time. Like, I'm not playing Secret of Mana or whatever, weird shot to throw of a game I'm really not that familiar with. But people say that's like a pretty good RPG, you know, Secrets of Mana. It's like, well, I don't really want to play that. I want to play Chrono Trigger because people say this could be like the greatest story of all time. Turns out it's really not. And I feel like it's kind of, and this is in that branch, like Chrono Trigger would get like a 7 or an 8. Heavenly Delusion would get like a 7 or 8. Something like Full Metal Alchemist, the manga, got like a 7 or 8. And there are little moments in there where I'm like, oh, this is like the seed of something that could blossom into something that's really great, like a Chainsaw Man or like a Berserk or like a Madman or something like this. But Monster is having these little spurts. I think a lot of Monsters, I don't see Monster becoming a 10. It could like jump up to like a 9 or something. Like, Vinland Saga isn't the quintessential 9 to me, and it is always, it has more consistent, great 10 out of 10 moments, and then it has some moments where it's like, oh, this is a little boring. And this is not as great as I want it to be, etc., etc. Vinland Saga is a whole different can of worms. But sometimes I think the scale of Vinland Saga might be the issue, which is very silly to be something I consider, but I think it is what I consider internally, and I can't help it. Anyway. Oh my god, I looked down to see, because we are live right now, I was looking down to see if Chad had anything to say, and I see that Middle of the Kill had to ban somebody, so that's pretty funny, because they were probably advertising something, and Mr. Gems has his little eye marks here. I guess I was saying that Monster has some of these moments. Oh, and I was saying that I think the ending, and however it ties in the payoff with Johan's character, is definitely, it could elevate it a little bit. But again, these are all, I'm only 68 chapters in. By the end, I could be recontextualizing everything I've been saying and be like, oh, this was genius the whole time. Like, I guess an example of sort of this, like, and this is like my final dot point here, the type of old school storytelling and genericism. Oh my god, it was on the main thing the whole time. Why did I even look for it? A lack of indulgence with characters. That's interesting. That's a different point. Like, most of the strong things you're supposed to, like, worry about in Monster don't interest me or aren't interesting to me at all. Like, Tenma's, like, battle with whether or not he should kill somebody, or, like, is Tenma becoming a darker guy because he's gone off the beaten path and has done some dark things? This is not interesting to me at all. This is probably not going to go as far as Guts. It's probably not going to be as interesting as Guts. Tenma is not as likable as Guts. He's not as evil as Guts. He's never going to be as likable. He's never going to be as evil. Like, and obviously these are different stories, but even in the regards of this story, like, the framing of this story caring about that is already like a, well, this is sure is something. Again, this relates to Johan, where it's like, is he just going to be like a really evil bad guy? Or is it that all the Johan speculation? Fuck it, we'll just do it now. The Johan speculation is basically like, there are different points where you're like, is it like supernatural or something? Which would be really cool. I seriously doubt it. They have convinced me in certain scenes sometimes. There's a really, really scary scene where the one guy, is it the psychiatrist guy we're still with? I think it is. Where he goes into the basement, he finds like the creepy doll, and it's like, and the criminal told him if you go into the basement, you'll see that monsters really do exist. And then he found like all the pictures with the cut off heads and stuff like that. You're like, oh, if a fucking monster jumps out here and like rips this guy limb from limb, this will be the greatest fucking manga of all time. I don't think so. I think it's going to be like it might literally be an abuse of like a fallen state thing of like, Johan, I think, is probably from Czechoslovakia, and he like found his way into East Germany. Or he might just be East German. Or it's like, oh, he went through the worst childhood ever and came out this way, so can we really blame him? That would really disappoint me if that's exactly where we're going. We've also seen, and this has not been brought up very recently, but we were doing a thing where we were implicating that Johan was like a split personality, where like he has an evil side and a good side, and the good side is like trying to help him get caught, and the bad side is like pure evil and killing all these people and the survival instinct and whatever. That initially to me was like, that is the most generic thing I've ever heard in my life, and lame as fuck. I don't care about that. I hate internal sort of identity things in characters. I don't think I've ever seen it done good. I'm sure it could be done good. There's also the potentiality that is like a 0.001% chance that the detective dude is right, and that Tenma is actually the bad guy, and he's been doing this the whole time. And like Johan is somehow like the guy that's been tracking him, even though we saw Johan shoot the guy in front of Tenma and Tenma freak out. That would be a more interesting split personality twist thing. It's not happening though. Now, all of this worry with Johan is sort of undone by the way he's the most interesting parts of his characterization have gone so far, where the sort of like lasting image of Johan so far is him crying. There's the image, like they're the most striking images in the manga, I think. And it's happened 3 times. There was the initial one where he was a kid and he was like reaching out for Tenma after the guys are trying to take pictures of him and his sister runs away in fear. Where he like reaches out for Tenma and is crying, and you're like, well, before that he was doing like brooding looks because we're not supposed to know he's the bad guy yet, but he's obviously going to be the bad guy. And so you're like, oh, even from a young age, he looks like he was a serial killer crazy. then to have him cry and sort of the juxtaposition there is interesting. I don't think the juxtaposition is what makes it interesting. I think it is just the crying part that makes it interesting. And then when he's reintroduced, he's crying again. And then he has the big moment, which is the big mystery box at the moment, where he looks at the old Chetch, like, picture book and sees the passage that he's sort of been writing in blood or whatever in a bunch of the crime scenes, where it's like the monster inside me has grown enormous or whatever. And where he cries and passes out, and especially the one page, that's probably a famous page, where it's like there's no borders or anything. It reminds me of like a late Golden Age Berserk, Griffith foreshadowing the Eclipse page, where it's like the full page and it's just like the teardrop going down and stuff like that. Cool manga pages like that are always the best. And it's really the only time Monster has done something like that artistically, I think. So him being like a crier is interesting. Now, again, this could play into the dual personality of like he's like sad that he's killing people because there's a good part of him, and then there's an evil personality that's doing all the evil stuff. I didn't think about that until right now. That could be disappointing. I think it would be much more interesting if there is some sort of internal conflict that isn't so internal that it's like two separate characters, but is just a person. So I guess that's what I'm hoping for. I feel like I had a little bit more to say, but I sort of just arrived at a conclusion. The Johan stuff is obviously, I haven't talked about Tenma really at all, is obviously the most interesting stuff. So yeah, I'll probably remember it if we start talking about other things too. Is there anything else left on this little first one? Lack of indulgence with his characters was sort of me theorizing about why I like certain things. And I think it does lend into this sort of old school story. There is like a style of old school story that is something I've been thinking about a lot recently. Because I've been thinking about how you placed Game of Thrones in it. Because Game of Thrones is kind of an old school storytelling thing. In the same way I'm critiquing Monster. At least the TV show is. The books are sort of too, but in like a totally different category. It's sort of like a cynicism in the storytelling. Dragon Ball Z fits into this too, where it's sort of like you're introduced to a character has a hope, and he wants to do something, and like it seems like he's getting his life in order right before he's killed off, and it's like the like Walking Dead episodes used to do this, where it was like, oh, here's a character of the group that we haven't really focused on. This, and I only watched like the first 2 seasons or the first season or something, and then they would get killed off at the end of the episode, and it's like, it's like there's like a moral in there, but I feel like I prefer stories where we go all out with a character and then they survive and then they're around forever. And I think old school storytelling, there are like principles that I can't properly identify but lead to stories being written this way, where it is like the way you're supposed to tell stories, where like the moral is the important part. And I feel like most of the things I like, while the moral is there in most of them, like the characters are almost the focus, which I don't feel like is the thing in Monster really. Like even Johan's character isn't really what's interesting. It's sort of his role in the narrative that's most interesting to me. Though his characterization is mildly interesting, as I was just going over. Because Monster is definitely very thematic. It's definitely cares a lot about the thematic stuff, which we'll get into in a future slide. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this sort of old school storytelling thing. It will probably be a scripted video at some point when I figure it out. It feels very like modern in the sense that there is a postmodern where it is sort of like an evolution in popular storytelling, and it is sort of a response to older stories. And this is very much an older story, which I think is the point at my beginning of this one, where I didn't realize that this was written in 1994. Because of the anime, and the anime is very early 2000s, I guess I've just always assumed that it was like written in like 2000 and then it was adapted a few years later. It being from 1994 was surprising. And the fact that most of it ends up happening in like the near future, or maybe time is progressing as publishing would have progressed, because obviously like if this was monthly, we're a few years into the publication at this point. Especially 60 chapters in, we'd be 4 or 5 years in. It's just a very interesting thing. So it is sort of like an old story in the sense, like calling Chainsaw Man postmodern because it's very recent is sort of like makes more sense in it. in a sense. But obviously there are very old postmodern things, etc., etc. And I don't even really understand the definitions of those words. I don't think I have anything else to say about the fact that the initial chapter date was surprising to me. Two interesting pieces of characterization so far. So yeah, the Johan crying we already talked about. The other really interesting thing that caught me off guard where I didn't see it coming, which is another big thing with me, is I like to not see things coming. Not even in like the twist sense. I really don't mind that at all. I'm not too opposed to spoilers. I don't really want spoilers, so don't spoil it in the comments. But like in a plot sense, that's not really going to ruin much for me. I think I would still enjoy it even if I was spoiled. But I usually like it when characters do things you don't expect, or even just say things you don't expect. And there was one moment like that with Tenma that I thought was a good piece of characterization, which is when he said that he was also cheating in college when he met our favorite psychology buddy we know now, who he assumed that Tenma had hated him because Tenma had caught him cheating one time. He didn't dob him in, but he was like, and that's why he's hated me ever since, that fucking Tenma, who I'm jealous of, who didn't have to cheat and was so smart in medical school. And the resolution of that arc is Tenma admitting that he was cheating too. And Tenma is very much being sort of like the goody two-shoes, like does everything as expected of him, sort of Prince Perfect type of guy, especially in the medical realm. And that was a very interesting piece of characterization of something you don't really predict. It doesn't really have an impact on too much, and it doesn't really like change the way you view him too much, but it is like, that's like a very interesting, it's like adds gradient to his characterization, and I thought that was very interesting. Outside of that, there hasn't been much of that with Tenma. He's like scared when he's supposed to be scared. He's like sad and depressed a lot of the time, and he's helping people out. It's like, well, this is what you expect from like a main character. Next point is poignant moments of the human condition and a more adult story approach. These are two interesting things. I think a lot of the more interesting moments in Monster is like, I guess this gets into the theme. A lot of Monster is about like old guys who have like dedicated their lives so much to their profession that all of their families have left them. Like every character Tenma meets who like helps him out, it's like, yeah, man, I got so into the case that my wife left me. Man, I got so into human psychology, my wife left me. Man, I'm just the best investigator ever, my wife left me. I was such a good doctor, my wife left me. And every time it's the family is left because somebody was too obsessed with their profession. And a lot of the more poignant moments is like that guy, that side character depressed at a bar, thinking about drinking and being like, man, I wish I could see my wife again. It's like, oh, these are like, it's just like a few pages of him like walking around the city looking at things, the cars going past. It's like, man, I made some mistakes in my life, and you're like, man, that's relatable. # poignant moment. And I think it does those relatively well. You can clearly read into it of like, this guy's a mangaka, and mangakas have very demanding schedules, assumingly. Well, that's what I've been told by the internet. And they're very dedicated to their works, assumingly. This guy's published like 3 or 4 big long-running manga in his life. So it's like probably very relatable to him to be like the top of your field, very respected at work, and then you come home and everything's shit, and your wife's cheating on you, and then she leaves, and then she blames it on you. Like with the fucking police officer, with the BKA guy, Lunge or whatever his name is. And it is his fault. Like, just don't neglect your wife and she won't leave you. It's great. It's pretty poignant. And yeah, like that sort of it's very clear that one of the themes is like, you're too obsessed. Obsession isn't good. And obviously Tenma is obsessed with Johan and is like ruining his life to chase him, to kill him, which is also not a very moral action. And so there's a very obvious theme here, but that theme has lent itself to some little poignant, deep moments of guys very dedicated to something. And I wish I could find something in my life to be very dedicated to. I've tried a few things now, and they all are annoying and boring. And I end up just watching YouTube videos. It's not good. The other themes, Tenma talks a lot about, especially early on, about what it means to be a real doctor. I thought this was something we kind of resolved until we meet the Vietnamese doctor in one of the most recent chapters I've looked at. And I assume this will happen again and again. basically Tenma at the beginning is like, I'm ambitious and I want to do like a bunch of research so I can become a famous doctor guy. And then he sort of realizes, no, what it really means to be a doctor is to save lives. Is another thematic beat I don't really care about. I think the worst part is that the moral underpinning of all these thematic beats seems really like boring and generic in a sense, where it's like the thing that most people are going to think is good. And that's sort of the moral philosophy behind it, where it's like, in the real world, probably becoming a famous doctor who does a lot of research is probably more important than the base, like, saving people's lives doctoring. But, like, from an emotional resonance angle, like, you can very much write that off as they're just politicking to become famous. And that's not good. And you should actually be saving people's lives. And you shouldn't choose to save this person's life so you can get more money. But maybe that more money in the end would help save people's lives. It's sort of like part of it feels like a misunderstanding of like a moral conflict or a very basic look at things. So that's probably another fear I generally have with Monster. Which kind of goes into the second thematic point here, where it's like, clearly like, no, we're supposed to be like, no, Tenma, don't kill Johan. You'll become a bad guy, a murderer if you kill him. Which is like a very basic look at a moral conundrum to me, where it's like, well, this guy's like crazy, possibly supernaturally evil serial killer guy who's got Machiavellian plans. Like, the moral action probably is a vigilante justice killing in this sense. I don't think this is like morally chastising Tenma if he were to kill Johan, which he almost certainly isn't, unless it's at the very end. I will say a vague spoiler I might know is that I think the last image of Monster, I feel like I've seen it. I feel like I've seen Monster end in the corner and it is an empty hospital bed. My interpretation of that at this point, and we do have a whole section on predictions that I probably should have saved this for, is like maybe like Johan and Tenma get into a shootout at the end of the manga and like they both get shot or something and they blank out and they're both in the hospital or something, and then Tenma goes and he checks Johan's hospital bed after he's recovered from his 3 bullet wounds where Tenma got him and was victorious in their gunfight, and he only finds that just like when he was a kid he's run away, and like that's like the lasting thing, and then the monster is still out there maybe or something. That's my interpretation of what I think maybe was the last panel I saw, because I saw it in a Jockey Bacon media thread one time. I could be completely wrong about all of this, or not. Monsters kind of been predictable so far, so I wouldn't be surprised if I was right. The title has also been recontextualized really recently, which is kind of interesting now that we're moving on from our thematic stuff. Of like, Johan is like a nameless monster, and like a big mystery is like he found a family and he finally like stayed with them for a little while before like he killed them. He hasn't killed them yet, actually. And it's because I think they had the same name as the fake name he was going after when he like met Tenma. I think that's probably why they were the perfect family. So that's my prediction for that, the resolution of that mystery. And in this, like the very last thing of the last chapter I read was the translation of what he must have read in the book, where it is the speech he says all the time with some added context about how the monster is nameless. So I'm assuming that like that's obviously the title reference is Johan is a nameless monster who we've given a name. And he relates to the story about the nameless monster from this like folklore story. Et cetera, et cetera. So I guess that was a prediction thing, but also me talking about the title being clever in retrospect. Who is the monster? Is Tenma the monster because he saved the monster? What is the moral? Should you have saved him, Mr. Tenma? Like, ugh. That might be an interesting moral conundrum. I don't think we're really interested in saying that, besides take personal responsibility and go out and kill him, which is obviously leading us down a bad thematic path. Anyway, our last dot point here. Slow reveal of which character is in the room. Roberto, Johan, etc. We haven't talked about Roberto too much, but he's like the second big bad who's always showing up killing people. I do like how the characters fold in on each other. This is another... we're going to term an old school storytelling sort of aspect where like everything in the plot is very succinctly relevant to the plot. Like there's no actual like stuff that serves no meaning, where it's like just a fun episode where you do a thing. Even though we have like single characters that don't seem to probably be coming back, even then it's like an important aspect of Tenma's thematic journey when we meet these characters. But like Roberto ending up with Ava and that coming back, and then Ava ending up with the one guy from the mob that's over here, and Johan kind of connecting to all of them, and then Roberto showing up with the prostitute lady, and then he's over here with the cops that killed Nina's parents and stuff like that. That all folding in on each other is clever, and I do like it. It's also like, and I hate this criticism, but it's also very convenient that like, oh, everything we are being shown directly folds in on itself. It's not a big deal, but it is interesting, and it is sort of like it's funny because criticism is retarded, of course, but it is funny where like popular criticisms that like in the YouTube sphere we accept very often always like contradict each other, where like something you're praising for doing a thing, like tight narratives where everything is relevant, is very susceptible to being accused of being convenient. And it's like, oh, we're supposed to, these are both supposed to be principles of critique that we believe in this sort of weird YouTube sphere we've created over like the last 15, 20 years. And it's like, man, God, we're retarded. Because they like, it's very obviously a preference thing. And it can be both. And now what do you do? Do you say it's good or do you say it's bad on your silly criteria sheet? Funniness, nonetheless. Now, all I have left is wrap up stuff here, which I feel like I've said most of the things I wanted to say. I'm drinking. Favorite characters so far? I guess Johan is it because he's the most interesting. Outside of that, I don't know. Nina's cute. We like Nina. I like the girl that's in love with Carl at the moment. She's cute. I like the girl characters. I did like Richard when we were following him. That was kind of cool. And when Tenma did show up, I was like happy to see him, and I was like, oh, because I had kind of been down on Tenma the whole time. I'm like, this guy's kind of a little boring or whatever. I like Dieter. Dieter, the little kid, is pretty cool. He's pretty funny sometimes. I don't know. I like all of the characters well enough. Whenever any one of them shows up, I'm like, oh, this guy, that's cool. Favorite moments is crazy because nothing really springs to mind besides the Johan passing out moment. That was really cool. There are times, because now I'm thinking negatively again. Like, remember when that, like, the resolution for that one guy was like, man, we would have no conflict in the world if everybody just sat down and had dinner together. It's literally like a Joe Rogan experience, like revelation, where it's like everybody should just get high together and then we would have no fighting or whatever. I remember being like 14 and believing shit like that. And now I obviously think that's retarded. And for like Monster to like seemingly wholeheartedly like agree with that message did like rub me the wrong way a little bit. And it does that a few times. My big fear is that all the thematic resolutions are going to be like that. Like, Tenma, don't you shoot that young boy. Put him in jail. Or being a real doctor is about saving people. You know, saving people makes you feel good to think about. That seems like the right thing to say. Like, Johan, nobody's born pure evil, man. He had a rough childhood and that's why he's a bad guy. It's like all these, like, base statements that, like, as for a story to be interesting, we've got to do that and then contradict that and then have it be that thing in the end, like Chainsaw Man would do or something like that, while making it a big joke. I don't know. Sincerity is bad, is what I guess my conclusion here. And that makes you an old story and a bad story, an old school type of story. So my favorite moments is to shit on Monster here. There have been other great moments, like the doll basement thing, the conclusion to the neo-Nazi thing where we're calling out and there's the reveal with Johan maybe being split personality. That's really cool. His reintroduction. The strongest part has absolutely been this most recent arc to me. I think it has been my favorite. I do like that it feels big. It doesn't feel like we're teasing for the future. It feels like we're getting payoffs. I am invested in all the characters that are primarily relevant. Nina did just show up for a second then run off. I was hoping she'd stick around or something. I will say all the characters are likable in that sense. Where like even the 17-year-old Vietnamese doctor we met, she was very likable and cute. I don't know. Standout moments is like what we're lacking a little bit. I think overall scores I don't know why I put that at the end, like I wouldn't have been talking about that the whole time, and I knew I would be talking about it the whole time, which is right now we're at a solid 8. Great old 8 out of 10. And now we got predictions. Will the Johan mystery box be satisfying? We've talked about that already. What will the plot be like moving forward? It is interesting, like Monster doesn't have a plot or a plot outline, so we can really do anything with the plot. And like I don't really want to make predictions about that. It's just like a wondering. Like, once I know the answer, it'll be like, man, remember when we didn't know about this thing that was going to happen next? Like, the whole arc with the police officer in France was like really interesting and weird and wacky. It's like, who knew we would spend like 3 chapters out here doing this? So yeah, it's like you would have never predicted that even the chapter before it had happened. I'm sure if I thought about it, there were like characters with unresolved things that we could move into moving forward. But also with Johan being more of a player, are we going to go back to chasing him for a little bit? I assume we'll probably get some more chapters just from his perspective, etc., etc. So yeah, it's very much anything could happen, especially since I know that there is so much left. It's not like with Naruto, you're kind of like, well, we're gonna get to a ninja war at some point, right? With Guts, you're with Berserk, you're like, well, we're gonna fight Griffith eventually, and this is all sort of like build up to get into that. It's like even something like One Piece, everybody's like, well, the Elbath arc has got to come at some point, and then we're gonna have the war arc, and then we're gonna go find the One Piece, and it's sort of like you have like this track record of like what's gonna happen next. Vinland Saga was very similar with that, where you're like, well, we gotta go to Vinland eventually. That'll be the last part. I have no idea what the context for the ending of Monster will be. It'll probably be a confrontation between Johan and Tenma, but it seems like we're going to get that in the next few chapters. So I don't know if we're just going to get reiterative, different confrontations, or it's going to be something else completely. Mr. Gems has said in chat, Carl loves killing. I do love killing. Oh, I love killing the great Johan. Yes, that is a moral act. I'm not certain about that, but it is funny that we're seemingly taking a very big side against it in the thematic narrative here. Character resolutions is the stuff that I kind of want to predict the most. Like it's like I can just, if this doesn't happen, I'll chop my hand off. No, I guess I'm not that confident, but like it's obvious at some point Roberto is going to be the guy that gets killed by Johan and is like out of the loop, and he's probably right before it. He's gonna have a telling monologue to Tenma as Tenma finds him as he's bleeding out after Johan has shot him or something, and he's like, I never really knew too much about him, you know. He just told me what to do, and he'll be like a sympathetic guy, even though he seems like such a bad, sort of overwhelming in the shadows figure, the muscle in the background. Like I can very much see a generic way for this to end. Tenma is the like Johan's either going to be dead or he's going to be ambiguously dead at the end, almost certainly, right? I don't think like Tenma's going to like save him or anything. That would be interesting if that's a reinterpretation of what it is to be a doctor, is to save people, and he's like, oh, he's going to save him from the monster. I don't think it is going to be a supernatural twist, which I am sad about, but I don't think, because I remember from the monster ending song, there is like the weird little scarecrow monster, and I've sort of been waiting for that to show up, and that at certain points I was thinking back to that and being like, it could be like there's like a Shinigami with him. That would be really cool, like in Death Note or something. Probably not though. And when we got into the dolls for a second, I was like, oh my god, they're doing it. This is crazy and creepy. Wow. I'm pretty sure that little thing is just going to be an image from the picture book he's been reading. I put that together recently, like when reading these chapters like an hour or two ago. So I'm almost certain on that front. That's sort of Johan's representation in the representation of the narrative in that book. Crazy. Like I assume Nina will get a happy ending. A more curious thing is like, is Carl and this girl gonna be allowed to live? I'm leaning towards yes, and I think they will probably live, but without the money. And it'll be like, oh, she really liked him for his money, and now that he's not the son, what does he do or something? And there'll be a resolution there. This old dude's definitely going to die, probably. What other characters? Ava is an interesting one. I didn't expect her to come back. She's probably the thing that stuck with me the most from my first time. I remember being like, she was like so mean to him. She ignored him and only liked him because of the thing. It was like a fake love thing. But then the twist is, oh, it was a real love thing the whole time. And she's like really mad after Tenma and stuff. Oh, the interesting chapters where she's like dealing with the gardener. That was like interesting. But that's another old school storytelling thing of like, they were almost going to have a happy moment for all of our characters, but then the wife showed up just on the same time we were supposed to go on a date, and then Ava saw it and she crashed out and burned down the house. Oh my goodness. It's like a very old school storytelling thing of like, that's how that has to end. It's funny, another little like one-off character like chapter thing we had. I don't think her and Tenma are going to get together, even if I'm kind of rooting for it now, just from her perspective. I do think there was such a deal made at the beginning of like Tenma finding a wife that I think he must have a love interest at some point. And when this doctor girl showed up, I was like, oh, it's going to be her because she's like Asian too. And I'm like, that could be something that a Japanese mangaka would do. But then she was 17, so that's probably not going to happen. Though that would be something for a Japanese mangaka to do, if you know what I'm saying over here. So that's interesting. I haven't really thought about that. I think very obviously Nina and Johan aren't actually siblings, and he might be in love with the sister, and he just sort of like found her, or she was also at the orphanage, or something was said about her being in orphanages back when they were in East Germany. I don't think she was in the evil orphanage, because they were split up before that, and she went to the girls' one that was actually good, I think. But like they were like running around the Chechen border or whatever. Chechnya and Czechoslovakia are different places, but Czech border sounds really cool, so I'm going to say it like that. And honestly, no, I'm pretty certain Czechoslovakia is the one that borders Germany. I know geography. They're Chechens. They're like the crazy guys, right? They're still killing each other to this day or something. I don't know. I don't know world history that well. So the sister isn't his sister, and he does have a crush on her on something, but the incest angle does make him seem more creepy and bad guy-y, so we are incorporating it in there as his characterization a little bit. Plus, he was sending her like Valentine's notes, and stuff like that, but maybe not. I'm soft on that prediction. Nina's getting a happy ending. What can I say? I just see it. The interesting thing is, the two psychologists that we're palling around with now, are they gonna die? I think they might not. Or maybe one of them will, but we already had the death of the great Dick over there, Richard. But it was pretty obvious he was gonna die. What other things do I have to predict? I know I had some other predictions. What else is hanging out there? I can't think of a goddamn thing. Or a goddamn character. Dieter is gonna... I don't know if we're gonna find him a family or if he's just gonna be Tenma's adoptive kid forever. Probably more the second one. I think maybe we could do a time skip where he's a little bit older and he finds like a family of his own or something. That could definitely be an aspect. Johan like hanging around orphanages too is like crazy, and he's like influencing them to kill themselves a little bit. But even just the imagery of him being like positive around him is very good too. Back to the Johan worship over here. But I think that might be all we have to say about Monster at this point. I don't know if I'll do another one 120 chapters in, or if I'll just wait for the ending until I've read it all. Which will probably be, like, I don't expect it to be more than a few weeks before I finish it. I'm pretty motivated after thinking about all this, especially to finish this little arc here. Tenra's not going to shoot him, pretty obviously, but, like, some dramatic stuff is going to come to a boil here, and I do want to see the picture book, which we're probably going to see a little bit, but the reveal is going to be the guy that I've already put together because of the anime ED. So, anyway, was Monster's first 68 chapters. We're going flat a little bit here, so you know, I think it's time to end it. I'm just buying myself time to remember something else to say. Monster's pretty cool. I like it good enough. It's a very easy read, I'll tell you that much. And it sort of came out of nowhere. I didn't expect to be reading Monster. but here we are. What a yawny young man I am. Anyway, that's it, alright? Let's fucking end this goddamn video. Hey! I don't want to end it outside of the PowerPoint, so start this again and go to the last thing. Well, everybody, we'll see you back with some more Monster discussion in due time, I'm sure. Maybe we'll end up making a main channel video once we end, because we're so motivated. We've just got to say our piece on the great Johan and join the cascade of a million videos about him that I really haven't seen. It's interesting that I haven't been spoiled to the resolution, so I'm hoping to keep that intact, I guess. Anyway, that's it. Everybody out. We'll be back soon. Support links in the description below. Thanks. My goodness, chat, my throat hurts a little bit. You want to do fun stuff now? Oh, wait, that was actually the second battery warning, was it? It was. We don't have time for fun stuff. I gotta fucking kiss and end this fucking thing so I can save it. Yes, Miller the Killer, it is over if you're asking about the PowerPoint, but so's the stream. Elite RE, I think, is going to stream tonight, and he did ask me if I wanted to duo stream with him. Dual stream, he said. Just read the Conjuro bit. What Conjuro bit? What the heck is Miller the Killer talking about? I'm going to have to read afterwards because I have to end this. I just did. What the fuck is Miller the Killer talking about? Oh, you don't even know? Don't worry. I don't know what the fuck Miller the Killer's talking about, but I gotta end stream so the recording doesn't corrupt and I can upload my great secondary NT video, so get the fuck out of here.